I had a daughter and she got married.
Isn't it sad to think about that he may have daughters one day?
Her man cheated on her. I would sit to her and say, that's your man, you love him. You ain't leaving the man you love. He's been good to you. He's looked after you. Just get over it.
Well, it's nice to know that his hypothetical daughter isn't exempt from his gaslighting.
But nobody believes I'd say that. But that's the real world.
And this is the man that's supposed to be a positive influence on young men. Do you think he would say the same thing to his hypothetical son? Of course not.
He hit my daughter. That's a different story.
Oh, he has some compassion at least for his hypothetical daughter.
He overstepped the mark. If he didn't look after her, if he was a piece of shit and he was cheating on her, different.
Keep note of that statement as we go through this video.
He had a good man who gave her a house, provided for her, took care of her. They had a family. He was good most of the time.
The message is, if he fully financially provides for the entire household, he's entitled to cheat. So once again, ladies, that's something you'll have to keep in mind if you wish to desire a man who fully financially provides for the household.
On some weekend with the boys and some girl.
That's the message he's preaching to young men.
And be like, that's my daughter. You're not allowed to do that.
He values the man that his hypothetical daughter would marry more than his own hypothetical daughter. I understand there's a thing called tough love, but there's nothing loving about any of this.
A man, he's a man, and I have to stay a realist. I'll say, listen, my love, I was doing the same shit to your mom.
I can only imagine growing up in a family environment as a woman where your mother's been disrespected, you're being disrespected, and all of your male family members are telling you to just get over it. How unloved and unappreciated you must feel as a woman in your family. And sadly, I imagine there are going to be people who've watched this video that's going to be their lived experience. If their experience in their formative years was entirely negative with the opposite sex, we're starting to grasp and understand why that negative outlook would carry on into adulthood. Now, we did say that it's not okay for a man to do this if he's not fully taking care of the household and financially providing. Let's learn about Andy Pandy's father.
The one thing my father was fantastic at was prioritizing the mindset of my brother and I above even his relationship with my mother.
Like father, like son.
When my mom and dad split up, we moved to England.
They split because his father cheated on his mother. Now, Andy's mother is British, so when they got divorced, she took the kids back to England and their father stayed in America.
My dad would disappear at chess tournaments for 2 months.
His father, Emery Tate, was a chess international master.
This is before like cell phones and stuff, right? So he'd call home twice a week, whatever.
And the way that Andy describes his upbringing, his father's presence in it is the bare minimum.
And my sister stopped talking to my dad because obviously my mom was upset because they split up and my dad cheated and my sister stopped talking.
Yes, that's correct. Andy does have a sister. Do you think their father prioritized her mindset just like her brother's? I'd be very interested to hear her perspective on her upbringing. However, she's managed to do a very good job staying out of the public eye altogether. And as far as I'm aware, has ceased to have any contact with her famous internet brothers.
Yeah. And me.
Cheating's hilarious.
Me and my brother obviously still spoke to him and he said, boys, when you're older, you'll understand. But now I'm older, I understand. Yeah. He fucked a girl, so.
This perfectly highlights and illustrates the influence a father can have on a son.
He's gone for 2 months.
Well, let's hear more about Andy's father's parenting participation.
He walks in the door, my mom's like, Emery, where you been? It's been 2 months. I don't know where you've been. What is this? I've gone through your clothes. There's a picture of some bitch in your... My dad had been home for 42 minutes and he'd just go, sorry, son, she won't shut up. Walked out.
I gotta say, I don't see Emery Tate ever getting nominated as Father of the Year.
See you in 2 months. Whoa. That's just who he was. He's like, I ain't sitting there taking shit off a bitch.
Disappearing for 2 months, no contact, messing around with other women outside of his marriage. The nerve of his wife.
It doesn't matter if she's your mother. I love your mother. I love you.
I'd say actions speak louder than words in this regard.
I'm not sitting here taking shit.
The message that Andy got in his youth is to not take shit from a bitch.
Grew up around that and now...
Even if you're the one responsible creating all the shit.
When I come home after 2 months...
Like father, like son.
And she's trying to say, where you been? You've been in Fresh and Fit podcast. I watched the podcast, you and all them girls. I'm like, bitch.
This is the man that young men are supposed to aspire to be like.
And this is what I mean by cheated. This whole idea of cheated to me is, it's propagated by obviously Western society.
It's a matrix conspiracy.
It's propagated by powerful female.
Are you talking about women who've come to the realization that they don't need to stay in a relationship with a man who cheats on them?
This idea that no man should ever dare fuck anyone but them.
Because they've built confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. They love and value themselves. They have standards, set boundaries and parameters on what they will and won't tolerate in a relationship. And they would rather stay single than settle for a man who isn't meeting those requirements.
Like, I do what I fucking want.
Yeah, it's delusional.
Yeah, it's delusional.
If you engage in a selfish behavior that you know will hurt somebody that you supposedly love, and your response to it is not a big deal, it means nothing, why are you getting so worked up about it? If it means nothing for you to do it, why are you doing it?
I can't say anything bad about either of my parents, my mother as well.
That's not entirely accurate.
Your mother is going to be very indicative of a typical consumer. She isn't going to know a lot about what you're trying to do. She isn't going to know a lot about technical stuff. She isn't really going to understand a lot of the things you say. I'm talking about my mother anyway. My mother's an idiot. And I mean that with all due respect because she's a nice lady, but she's just stupid. My dad was the smart one. So they ain't going to know a whole bunch.
Openly disrespects and insults his own mother and takes that information and generalizes all mothers.
So even when I launched my PhD course, I said to my mom, I'm going to launch a course telling guys how to get girls. And she said, said, "Oh, don't make more men like you out there." That's what she said. I was like, "What do you mean like me?" She goes, "Oh, well, the way you are with women." And I sat there and I thought, okay, bang, I know this is going to work. Because even my mom knows I'm pimping hoes.
I mean, the PhD course that he used to sell on his website stood for Pimping Hoes degree.
Even my mom knows. She's seen so many chicks coming out the door. Even my mom's like, all right, I don't know what kind of son I've raised, but he's tearing through these chicks dangerously.
Which was a funnel to then use these women to make money by putting them on webcam and OnlyFans.
So with the PhD course, I knew it would be a fantastic idea. Because even my mom was saying to me, look, you're going to make some dangerous men out there. And sometimes she said some pretty smart shit. There's a level, you know what? There is a level of intelligence which comes from absolute stupidity.
And finally, what was the financial status of the Tate household?
I was raised with no money, good parents, and that's the best way you can possibly be. Same here.
The message that Andy would give to his hypothetical daughter is, well, if he fully financially provides for the household and takes care of you, he's allowed to cheat. But when it comes to the case of his own father who cheated on his mother, his father did no such thing. His father was broke and the family grew up in poverty. I imagine Daddy Tate is exempt from this rule, right? The only way that these types of men can continue to have these chaotic type of relationships with women, it's heavily reliant on you having low self-esteem, low self-worth, and riddled with insecurity. You would have to be convinced you're entirely dependent on them and you won't be able to survive without them. You can't fathom being single, and being alone terrifies you. They have to be able to administer as much control over the relationship as they can, and financial control is a big one. They may have the capacity to provide you with a lavish lifestyle that you could only dream of, but you got to decide whether that's worth being in a relationship with a man who's going to cheat on you all the time and just tell you to get over it. And I imagine the reason that Andy Pandy has to choose the side of the hypothetical husband that marries his hypothetical daughter, because it would mean that the behavior that he engaged in, that his father engaged in, is wrong. But honestly, I don't genuinely believe he thinks he's doing anything wrong. He doesn't value women, including potentially his own daughter, as much as he values the approval from other scumbag men. And this is supposed to be the positive male role model for young men? I don't think so.